It's very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
This atmosphere. It's the calm before the storm.
Ladies and gentlemen, okay, yeah, now it's working. Okay, I don't know what's going on there, but that was weird. Okay, now at least it's moving. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. My mic seems to be working all right. Please let me know if that's the case. Yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome here to the Nürburgring eSports Championship as always, and today we're here at Spa-Francorchamps. Definitely the round I've been looking forward to the most, I want to say. It's going to be very entertaining at least. Hypercars and GT3s as we always do in a 75-minute race. Nearing the end of the season already. It's been going quick because we had two rounds in a row. Obviously, 2 weeks in a row we had races. This is round number 6 out of 8. Or 9 if you want to include the, first little prologue that we did. And yeah, very exciting stuff ahead. There's circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps up to date. Longer track up to 7 kilometers. Should make for some good racing, some very good multi-class racing. This was probably my favorite race together with Fuji in the real-life World Endurance Championship calendar. So very fun. And I suggested we have a look at how the standings are at the moment. Because, well, if I'm just going to really quickly pop them up here, it's going to be one of those races, I feel like, where this could really make a big change in the championship. Here's the full calendar, as you guys all know it. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Nothing's really changed apart from, well, one date, I suppose. other than that, it's just kind of been the same thing all over again. No big changes here, which is pretty nice. It's just kind of a very standard, entertaining calendar here. Not a lot of risky, dangerous, weird kind of tracks, right? Obviously, all these tracks make sense, and everybody knows them, which makes it so great, because everybody knows how to race in these. Prizes up for grabs as always. So very fun to see how this will go here. And let's have a look here at the hypercar standings then. As, well, we're going to have a lot to do here. Let's see what they're looking like. So at the moment, Fabian Klein was the most recent race winner here, with currently Rurik leading the charge. And he's got quite a few extra points over Klein, so it's going to be very hard to keep up here. Spreesen and Vester Silva had to really work for their points. A little bit later on, we also saw that Lutterbach was getting some good results in, and well, a P3 allows him to really get a good job done compared to Bauer there, who struggled with some contacts at the end of the race. As for the GT3s here, we have, well, shared 9th place for Jan Immans and Ingo Werner, with Jeremy Baumert still leading the way above Thibaut Raffieux and Roberto Lorente. And then the gap is kind of quite large. It's Schnutgen and Dewald up last. Obviously, the next time around, we're going to see this change. I mean, everything can still happen in the GT3 Championship. Lorente currently leading. Well, he was the winner of the previous race, I should say. Raffieux P3, Baumert P2. And these three are just the people to watch here. They are just miles ahead of everyone. Now, also very fun, and I want to introduce you guys to this. It's the F1 calendar here. It is 12 hours of the Nürburgring and a F1 series. So that's going to be very fun. Starting off 7th of December with F1. Then we have a 12 hours of the Green Hell, followed by in 2026 Canada, Red Bull Ring, Monza, and Nürburgring GP. So very fun to watch here. I can't wait to see how that one's going to go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get ready here for a race. And well, lap time is currently just below the 2-minute mark. Currently, Fabian Klein the quickest in practice overall, but we'll see how that goes, as anything can still develop. GT3s are going to be significantly slower here, right? They're doing 2:15s-ish. So the gaps are big, obviously, because the track is so big. So less interference of traffic compared to, let's say, Fuji, right? So that's going to help. But I think no matter what, it's going to be very, very fun. Ladies and gentlemen, we are off to a sweet little break. Then we're going to get ready as soon as qualifying gets underway.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
Very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
here we are then. Getting ready to race here. Don't know exactly what we're waiting for. I think there's been a little bit of technical delay on the live stream because I do see that the lap times are coming through here. So yeah, as always, it is a 30-minute qualifying. And that 30 minutes is starting off with 20 minutes of hypercars. And then once 10 minutes have passed, we'll see that the GT3s are also going to be joining in here. So it's going to be difficult for the hypercars to improve once the traffic is out. Only very rarely that we get to see some improvements here. It's only really for the drivers that have done not so good laps in the beginning of this qualifying session. But generally speaking, it's mainly just the hypercars that are improving in the first couple laps, really. And after that, it's just practice, essentially, for them as the GT3s. Well, they have some time to warm up, get some basic reference lap times in the GT3 cars until, you know, the hypercars leave and there's a little bit more space on track now. Luckily, this time around, the biggest advantage that we have right now is the fact that this track is very big, so you're going to be obscured a little bit less here by the different classes that are racing at the same time. You can spread out a little bit more here, which is necessary because we have 32 drivers on the grid. Currently, we're seeing the top 12 post their first time, so there's a couple more on the grid. Still believe there's 13 GTPs or LMDH cars on the grid in total. And currently, Lynn is doing really well. It's fastest lap right now by Fabian Klein. He's gone for a 2:13.361. Now, don't get me wrong, these times will obviously drop below the 2-minute mark. But usually that's what they do. That's a big lockup here into the last corner, and that's always difficult because you have way less downforce when you're driving slower. Only press the brakes a little bit less hard, and yeah, that's where that trail braking skill can really just give you an edge here, as indeed the first lap times have been posted here. Below the 2 minutes, and Nicholas Lynn currently leading. Fabian Klein stays just above that 2-minute mark, but in practice we did see some 58s out there, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see some drivers here able to push up to, for example, the 157 mark. Here's Levon Celik trying to come out there and do his best. Coming into turn 1, or at least turn 1 if you're using the Formula 1 layout. There's also a layout which has the extended pits, and you actually start right where these drivers are currently headed. And you'll see that they'll actually start by driving up the Eau Rouge and Raidillon kind of thing. Yeah, coming into the comp for the first couple flying laps, you'll see that some drivers might be a little bit too daring and to outbrake themselves. It's tricky because you come from such high speed, you gotta hit the brakes hard, and at the moment lap time's kind of stagnating here. With such limited time to get your laps in, every driver's gotta be so focused here. They need to try and see if they can do the right things during this 10-minute stint of no one else on track apart from the GTPs. Now, when the GT3s come out here, I do want to see just also them claiming their spots, and I do want to see them being proactive here. They're going to need to. And that from Canal. So trying to see what he can do. Kilian Lutterbach is one of the faster drivers during the free practice session. However, this time around, he is going to be finding himself stuck here. Not yet on a timed lap. And yeah, it's going to cost him some time to get used to it. Lutterbach currently doing 2:45s, but that was obviously just an outlap. So we'll see that he can improve rather quickly, as now Fabian Klein will take provisional pole to put in a 1:59.086. Impressive lap times. In fact, very impressive lap times here. Kenan Litterback trying to see could maybe make this work. Fabian Klein, the current provisional pole sitter, is always bound to do good. This little onboard, you'll see just how incredibly quick this guy can be. There's a reason this guy is so high up in the standings here. And he is just one of the more seasoned, very experienced driver. You can also tell by the way he's cutting up traffic. You'll get to see it later as in just a little bit. Oh, and as I said, it makes a big mistake. Has himself spinning around, or actually just about saving it from doing that. Fabian Klein still leads, and he knows that he has some extra time to make this work here. So again, you see just how heavy those lockups are here. It's Michael Vullis driving from the Rocha location, finding himself in a 2:01.758 right now, and as he's gonna try and improve on that. He's finding himself in a decent position halfway through the pack, and just look at how big that lockup is. I mean, that is just so difficult to manage here. These cars here, they can be very nimble, but they can also be very challenging to drive. No improvements there, unfortunately, for Michael Vullis. Then now we are aboard with Michael Bauer, a driver that had some disappointing results, I think, for him in Fuji. Is now back, and is probably going to be able to do a little bit better this time around. Currently P3. He's looking to see if he could maybe snatch away front row start here. Currently about a second off pace compared to Nicholas Lind, the driver in P2. Fabian Klein just being the fastest by quite the margins. Killian Lutterback coming in. P6 at the moment here, and obviously took him a while to get started here on the laps, and this is going to be his last attempt here without the GT Freeze on track. So not going to meet him just yet. Obviously they have to come out of the pits, and therefore he's able to finish up this lap, and afterwards it's traffic as the GT Freeze release themselves. Killian Lutterback is ready to go for it. And Victor Mestre Silva here in P5. Just trying to see if there's anything more in the lap right now. 2:01.4 is the time to beat. He is currently about on his record delta, so it's gonna be a game of maybe milliseconds, and that's not gonna be enough for him to push into Alexander Haag's territory. And he's even gonna have a little bit of a moment there. Keeps it on the racetrack, but not by much. Costed him some valuable time here. Victor Mestre Silva currently P5. How did GT Freeze come out? So GT Freeze on track. Traffic management now becoming a thing here, and Fabian Klein has even improved himself to drive a 158.957. He should be glad he did, because Nicholas Lind also pushed himself into that 158 territory as the other drivers. So P3 to P12 are all above the 2-minute mark here. So maybe that is setup related, maybe that is just nerves of qualifying hitting in a little bit, but I do expect these drivers to be able to push all into the 159s if they push their cars to the absolute limit. At least hypothetically they should. Now the GT Freeze are out on their outlap, and they're taking their sweet time. There's Norbert Dewald. It's actually Got matching liveries of the driver ahead of him. That's a fun little detail there. Look at those two. That's beautiful. And it just shows that some people really take this seriously, and I'm really glad they do. Because it just makes for such good racing. This is Norbert Dewald. Are aboard with here. They're actually going to swap around by the looks of it. Maybe that's a confidence thing here. Yeah, Belgian Ardennes. This is a track I've visited once so far. Very aggressive move there. Andre Hennis was looking for a lap time desperately. Yeah, this track is just absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorite tracks I've ever been to. I think still, obviously, the Nordschleife has really captured my heart, but this has to be a close second here. It's just so beautiful when it comes to the nature. And the location of this is just absolutely sensational. Now, do note that Andre Hennis wasn't born yesterday. He should have the potential to move in. First drivers of the GT3s are, as you can see, now done with their warm-up lap. That's why these lap times are currently standing at 12 minutes. Now, don't worry, luckily they're faster than that. I'm very glad they are. Oh, that's a little bit of a bump up. I think he actually got a little bit of a hit from behind there. It's not going to help him as he lines up to go through the final corner. Now, the first time I actually did visit this track was in May 2025. So this year I went to see the World Endurance Championship live. So let me tell you, it just hits different. These cars, especially the... I want to see mainly the Cadillac when you hear that thing rolling around together with the Aston Martin. It's just absolutely beautiful. Now, unfortunately, there's no Aston Martins when it comes to the hypercars around here. But they are so incredibly loud and they sound so good, let me tell you here. We have to like home. It is Fabian Klein, the current pole sitter. Was a GT3. I think that was one of the Audis facing the wrong way. Also, we did see that Michael Volles hit the barrier there quite hard. I think it was him that crashed out. A bit unfortunate here. Just 6 minutes to go for the hypercars to get their final laps in. So 3 more laps is all they get. And no one's really able to improve on their hypercar laps right now. Everyone's doing slower laps than they used to, apart from Victor Mestre Silva, who's currently a 10th quicker than he was in his best attempt so far. Nicholson's actually decided to come into the pit as Leonard from Canal is going to try and improve once again from the Koblenz location here. Now you can just see how many GT3s there are and how traffic is going to play a very big factor into this. And this is where you get your first kind of shot at that during the qualifying session even. This is Jeremy Balmert, one of the heavy hitters. I think it's fair to say when it comes to the GT3 class. Leading the way as per usual. With Cedric Abbiati looking to challenge him. See what they can do. I mean, he is currently obviously a little bit further behind as one of the new drivers or guest drivers even. Just never easy. For Dewald. P15 right now. Coming around the corner. Well, so far. This is Reno Cheville. P22 yet to set a fast lap time out there. Did finish his out lap. He's now looking to see where he can push this 296 GT3. Not necessarily the fastest car on the straight, but should be able to handle pretty well. As the Lexus was a car that I was deeply impressed by at Spa. Unfortunately, it suffered some issues later on in the race, but it's been a weapon that only Jeremy Baumert has tackled so far. Oh, that's quite late on the brakes. Just about makes the corner. And spins out. I think it was on the curb. A little bit sketchy. Michael Fuchs here, flat out through Eau Rouge and Raidillon onto the Camel Straight, as it should be. Just look at how much swerving still happening. Not happy with the tire temperatures at all. McLaren going out of the way there. Michael Fuchs is looking to see what he can do. 12.5 minutes here of qualifying that is left. Julien Sechot, currently the fastest driver in the GT3 class, followed by Cedric Abbiati and Jeremy Bauert here. So he's got a lot to do there. 75-minute race, it's also more than enough to see some traffic struggles. This is Timothy Sparisen then, 6th place for now in the hypercar class and also 6th overall. They're the fastest cars that we have on the track today. Now, next up we're headed over to Circuit of the Americas, a shorter track of course compared to this. We have a finals over on the Nürburgring GP, which track, which also should be, if I'm not mistaken, posted on the Nürburgring YouTube channel, so that's even more fun then. As always, everyone's driving from the Nürburgring locations. Nürburgring locations that I'm talking about, of course, are this time around, well, all the esports bars they have. Usually we're joined for endurances by our good friends over at the AC Friends community. That's a little bit of a lockup there. Also on the bandit lap for Timothy Sparisen. Not happy with how traffic has formed this lap around. Julien Sechot currently fastest overall, chasing down one of the other BMWs. That's pretty scary seeing that in your mirrors here, but also just seeing where you could push each other. Utilizing the toe perhaps, although speed difference is definitely getting there. So it's got to go around the outside in a little bit of a qualifying session. Even these drivers are already pushing each other. The Jägermeister livery, of course, an iconic one. And Julien Sechot, 13 overall and fastest in the hypercars. Michael Volders then currently on a little bit of a slower lap, unfortunately for him. Currently about 3/10 off pace as he's halfway through the track. That is quite a big dust cloud there. One of the drivers in the grass. Shame we're not able to see who it is. That is a cent and a half. Goes a little bit too wide there. Through that very, very, very long Blanchimont corner. And get ready to get through the chicane even. Blanchimont, what am I saying? Pouhon, of course. Good morning, everyone. Currently, all the hypercars back in the pit. The time for them is officially over. Michael Volders will be ending his lap through the... Well, I want to say through the limits, but over the limits of the track. We'll be coming in as the GT3s. Now good to get some good improvements in. With no traffic disturbing them. And look at the gap right now within Julien Sechot. Norbert Dewau was doing really well this time around. Volders taking a shortcut. I think that's going to be the end of his qualifying session then. This is Jan Emmons, P18. The M4 GT3 BMW. He's struggling to keep that thing around. Now, actually, I'm curious. You guys in the chat right now, what's your favorite BMW GT3? Is it the Z4 or Z4 if you want? Is it the M4 or is it the M6? Because for me, I think sound-wise, the M6 has still got it. But it looks so incredibly around, and I'm not sure if I like the look of it. Now, the Z4's got a special place in mine. I've lapped that thing around the ring so many times in the Assetto Corsa. It's just such a fun car to drive. This is Roberto Lorente. Always a high-performing driver. Driving from the Roche location. They've got some talented drivers over there, let me tell you. Roberto Lorente currently P13. Anthony Mottas here, P18. What can he do? It's currently such a busy track still around here. Don't know how it can be. It just shows you how difficult it can be to navigate around here and find a good space for yourself to go to the absolute limits. Anthony Mottas then looking to come around. Can he push from behind? And he blew McLaren as time is almost up in the session. Now 6 minutes to go. A little bit under 3 laps. As most drivers are still in their laps, of course, they're going to be able to finish it and allowed to finish it also. As we look to see Nicholas Gross here. But some decent times up there. Currently, Sesho is quickest, followed by Laurent Baumert, Diwal, and then Abiati, who's fallen behind a little bit now that the traffic is no longer in the way of drivers. Jan Emmons also at 2:19. Times are still pretty close here with the slowest driver that has gotten a valid fast lap in still a couple seconds behind. This is Alexander Erben now. On push. It's not to do with traffic. He's still got the black pane GT livery out there. That's been a while, man, since they've been around. Cool to see how any of that works. There's contact, I believe, between the Corvette and Alexander Erben. They most definitely touched there, and unfortunately that's going to be a big hit into the wall for the American immediately afterwards. That is not good. David Gossman, always around for a party, but had a outlap very late into this. Was very late even. It's going to be a while until he gets his car up to speed here, as 116 Porsche will nicely park up here. So David's going to continue here. Yeah, Corvette that he's driving. Don't get me wrong, the Assetto 6 GT3 is a beautiful car, but definitely not one of my favorites. Not too big on the Americans, but you know, it's doing well. Says Norbert Dewald here. Wants to see if there's a front row position in for him, but it's gonna be difficult here. Usually has to settle for best of the rest, but has looked particularly competitive here around the Spa track here. Which is great to see. Most drivers now in a position where after this they're only able to put out one more lap, which is a little bit difficult here. So some disconnects happening there. So not flawless for everyone here. Obviously we'll soon get to driving the race, and then things are just gonna get a little bit more intense as always. Gotta see how it comes around. I think, you know, in a positive way, Norbert Dewald's really being competitive right now. Really fun to see also. Can do this. Just pushing in all the way whenever he can. Just a little bit over a minute to go now in this qualifying session here, and drivers to give it their everything one more time here before we get to driving in the race here, and then we'll see what can come around. I really wonder how it's gonna go, but it's gonna be very, very fun, I can tell you that. Yeah, time ticking away here. This Gross is currently in P19 overall, doing well in this class. Not quite able to catch up with Marco Convertini. He's put in a good lap towards the end of the session here to really boost himself up in the standings. Late to the party, but he's here. He's got something to show for it. Very fun to see. It's Cedric Abbiati in the 46 BMW GT3. To push into it one more time. I mean, the time is now officially up here, so drivers that will go over the finish will not be able to get out there again. Drivers that are currently in the lap will be allowed to finish it. So that includes people that just about crossed the line. So see some more action here, but it's going to be fairly minimal here. Lots of drivers back into the pits already here. With the slowest time currently at 2:29 for David Gossman. At least everyone's managed to put out a valid qualifying lap, which is really good to see. You know, the gaps between some of these drivers is quite big here, so we'll see how that comes around here. As Roberto Laurenti with a 2:17 is currently the only driver that could potentially beat Ciccone and Convertini to boost himself up to a provisional front row start here. It's currently about a half a second off pace here, so most likely that's not going to happen. Shame really, I like the guy. He seems to be quick too and very respectful racer from what I've seen. That's going to be the end of that session then. Better Laurenti. Yeah, even just decided to get into the pits there, so that should be that then. Not many drivers left here. Still driving. Nicholas Gross is still looking to come around. I think he just about managed to get a new lap in. As Reno Cheville is also going to be able to finish it off one more time. More drivers into the pit. Yeah, the black and white flag has been out for a while, and I think That just sums up our qualifying right there. And Fabian Klein to take pole position in the hypercars, followed by Niklas Lin. And then on the second row, we have Michael Bauer, Alexander Hawk, followed by Kilian Lutterbach and Timothy Sperris in the third row. As for the GT3s, current fastest driver is Julien Sechot. A P1 in his class, Convertini right behind him in a McLaren. You have Roberto Lorente, Norbert Dewald, Jeremy Bauert and Cedric Abiadi to make for our first free grid rows. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get ready to race. And when that race starts, we'll be taking you through it. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here. And afterwards, we're going to get ready to race.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
So it's very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
atmosphere. It's the calm before the storm.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
So it's very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
atmosphere. It's the calm before the storm.
Alright, it is time to get started here. It is 75 minutes of Spa-Francorchamps, and as you can see, we are about to get going here. It is going to be quite a spectacular race, let me tell you here. And the, well, first drivers are now in. We can get racing. And it is going to be a very chaotic start. I think that was one of the cars already facing the wrong way there, but Fabian Klein gets a massive start ahead of everyone else. Some jump starts handed out there. Don't know if those will be taken away here or whether they were actually valuable, correct penalties handed out here. But what a start from Fabian Klein. He leads the way coming up to the Camel Straight for the first time here. It's all flat out. Nicholas Lind chasing him right away. Kilian Lutterbach had a good start. Michael Bauer also getting himself involved into some of these battles. Currently, there's Nicholas Lind in P4 here. Kilian Lutterbach moves up 2 positions from a starter's position as he's looking to chase down the current race leader here. GT Freeze all made it in towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon. I think everyone's kept it clean as far as I can see right now. Some incident here between Michael Vullis and I believe that was just straight up the wall then. But other than that, everyone's kept it clean, and we do now see that Fabian Klein's getting chased too. That was a little bit sketchy there by Kilian Lutterbach. He really abused the maximum of the track there, but he kept it in. And he's able to keep it going. Fast, long left-hander where you could really push the car to its limits. The downforce really helping you now compared to the GT Freeze. GT Freeze, of course, already behind by a little bit of a margin here. Kilian Lutterbach doing a good job of keeping things clean, but he is losing that connection here to Fabian Klein, who just seems to be a little bit quicker here and is able to extract that pace immediately here. We do see Roberto Lorente doing really well in this class right now, currently leading the GT Freeze. Marco Convertini is chasing. It is the BMW of Julien Sechot who's also playing around, and I think the biggest question mark is where is Jeremy Baumert gone? He's currently down to P5 in this class. Tough luck out there, but there were some incidents along the way here. The Ferrari of Reno Cheville really in the way. Michael Vullis has hit the wall, unfortunately, once again pretty hard, and he's back in towards the pit. Ingo Werner has gotten himself a 10-second penalty handed over by race direction. So that's stuff that's a manual penalty headed out. And they were talking about the penalties during the briefing a little bit as well. One of the Toyota hypercars of, I think that is Alexander Hawk, has fallen back massively. Reno Cheville driving slowly over on the big straight, has lost a couple positions. The hypercar is really fighting back now. Alexander Hawk has got a long way to kill. One of the drivers facing the wrong way over in the bus stop chicane. That is far from ideal, of course. The fastest drivers already are past the Camel Straight to show you how big that gap really is. Hypercar locking up there. GT Free train right behind. Reno Cheville trying to see if he could catch an Amos. He'd lost a couple positions. He had obviously a terrible start. He was doing really well. But then towards the later end of the lap, he was struggling. Found himself touching some people. I think he also hit the wall at some point here. Nicholas Gross gets himself a 5-second penalty here. You got to be careful you don't hit your track limits here. In the GT Freeze, the Eau Rouge Raidillon combo is completely flat. However, you got to make sure you nail your line. And if you don't, and you overcorrect, you're going to be in massive trouble here. Reno Cheville looking to see if he could potentially send it down the inside, but there's no space. Gap is just too big at the moment here. So he's looking to catch the BMW, which is currently being held up by Noah Boltzhauser. Jan Emmons right ahead of him. Gap currently around half a second. I'm glad the GT Freeze are getting some good screen time here. This is Julien Sechot currently doing well enough to be in P2. Cedric Abiani's been a little bit sketchy there, but he made it through. He's fallen back some positions, but compared to start, not the end of the world here. Keep in mind, as always, drivers will have to pit. There's no mandatory pit stop. However, fuel and tires don't allow them to go all the way through towards the end there. It's also a little bit colder here than it was over in Fuji. You'll mainly be feeling when it comes to warming up your tires here, which is maybe also where the slower lap times and qualifying in the beginning came from. Well, for everyone to get settled in, to get going. So overall, that's good. Fabian Klein has gotten that gap to P2 up to 2 seconds already here. Leonard from Canal in P10. Alexander Hawk has at least made it by all the GT Freeze again, but he's still got such a long way to get people going. I Of course, it's valid, but it's also unfortunate. Now, these incidents, when you get yourself stuck behind the GT3s, you're in massive trouble, and the drivers know that. That's what makes it so incredibly difficult here. Alexander Hawk, P11. And he's got the biggest catching up to do, as Roberto Laurentiis really got himself a gap in here. Solid line driven by the Audi R8 GT3. Plenty of BMWs around this time. Don't really think that surprises me here. Roberto Laurentiis doing a good job keeping things clean. This is Julien Sechot right behind him. To see what he could do. Jeremy Balmert in P14. It's got a long way to go still. Keep in mind the race is still very long, right? It is an endurance championship in a way, so of course that is to be expected. Of course, with these 75-minute races, you know you're always in for a good treat. And I really can't wait for the finale over at the Nürburgring GP track. That's going to be a very fun one here. This is Dorian Mabasic we are currently aboard with. The greatest of races by him so far here, even though the race is still very young, of course. Julien Sechot. Chase, Patrick Fuchs gets a 5-second penalty from a race direction handed over. So that is not great. Obviously for him, very rough. Now we already see I was getting into the pits there. This is David Gosman here. Had a good start. I mean, he was slow during the qualifying session and is now just able to catch up, doing well. However, he's made a big mistake coming into this turn. That's a shame. Cheville currently in a big GT3 train, trying to see if he has the raw pace to stay with the other drivers here. Everyone doing great to keep it clean on the track. Also, it's got to be said that this track is probably the easiest in that sense, because when it comes to the traffic here, you're going to just encounter a lot less traffic here, and Motta's getting himself a penalty. That's a shame. So otherwise, it's been very, very clean here. Nicholas Lind looking to come around also. See what could be done here. Nicholas Lind currently P3. Oh, he's had a little bit of a moment there going across the grass, and he's had to give away those positions. Michael Barrow's gone through. Killian Lutterbank also ahead of him now. Fabian Klein still leading the way, and he's gotten that gap to 4 seconds already. I mean, that is just very impressive. Beautiful stuff. Nicholas Lynn looking to get back to Michael Bauer here. I think he is a little bit quicker on track, and the lap times reflect that. Marco Convertini serving a drive through, and oh, it's a lockup, and also one of the drivers standing still. Final corner. It's just really not gone well for some of these drivers, it feels like, you know. Everyone's having a little bit of a moment. Kilian Lutterback locks up here. Nicholas Lin's already made his way by Michael Bauer again. I think Bauer also realized that there's no point in really putting up such a big fight. Gosman takes his drive through. There is an hour left of this race, and an hour doesn't seem like a lot, I know. It's still plenty of time here as the drivers are already starting to get lapped here. Michael Bauer. Well, Nicholas Lynn. Kilian Lutterback still P7 here. I think he can do better than that. I mean, long race, had his moments. Now, you know, the traffic's getting into the way of Max Granzer, for example. Ooh, when he pours out a little bit of a moment, that was scary there for Max Granzer. He really had to hold himself in. Luca backing here. 33's got a long way to go. Had a little bit of a sketchy moment here, as obviously majority of these GT3s have been lapped quite significantly here. That's not easy for them. Fabian Klein leads with an 8-second gap right now. There's on 7 laps. Leader of the GT3s on 6. So, long way to go still. Now, Chadwick is still actually in P12. Stuck behind one of the GT3s by the looks of it. And so Roberto Lorente is doing really well. And Roberto Lorente has just gone for that overtake just now. Laird Canal from Canal has actually hit the wall quite hard at 70 kilometers an hour. It's going to cost him some valuable time. Well, we'll just keep going. Julien Chachot, P16. Now look at them going through the corners here. You can really see the speed difference. And it's not even when, you know, they're utilizing that downforce so much. Of course, on flat through, there's Cedric Abiadi serving his drive through for cutting. It's going to cost him a lot of time. Julien Chachot here doing well. Obviously having served a first pit stop already due to, you know, penalties sneaking in there. That goes for some of the other drivers too, of course, but for the GT3s it's very rough because just look at how close the field currently is still. This is Tom Clancy, driving from the Koblenz Nürburgring eSports bar. Steve Fio will also get a disqualification here. That's weird. That's just been kicked from the race too, so he's stuck out there now. I don't know what's happened exactly. We do have live streaming on the board. Maybe they've seen something outrageous, which I have missed. If you guys have seen it in the chat, let me know. But that is very rough. If that's what they're going to give out to some of these drivers, and yes, they have been warned during the briefing, don't get me wrong, but still. Michael Fuchs here. Anthony Bottas is right up ahead there. 1.6 seconds is the current gap. Got a long way to go still. This is Jeremy Balmer, P14 overall. Currently second over in the GT3 class, only behind Roberto Lorente. Now these are still pretty close fights for the championship. If Lorente is able to steal this one away, going to be very happy with the end result then. He could still be making that comeback. And just look at how many drive-thrus are currently being handed out. Some of these automatically, for example, this one to Michael Vullis, who got a drive-thru for cutting the track. So everyone can get a couple warnings in there. If you got the track and get an advantage, will be penalized eventually. And therefore, got to be extra careful. Long straight ahead here. All these drivers pushing to the limits. What's left here for Jeremy Baumert, P14. This is Niklas Gross. Torben Heinert, also in P25 overall. Driver we haven't really heard from much so far. Driving from the, I believe this is the Opticon location that he's at. Of course, if you want to know more about the Nürburgring eSports Championship, we do have a website that you can go check out. It's nürburgringesports.com with a dash between Nürburgring and eSports, and it's UE rather than a U with dots, which obviously you can't really type on those keyboards. So at nürburgring-esports.com here, we're currently in round number 6 of the Nürburgring eSports Championships, and next up, planned a Nürburgring AC France 12-hour Nürburgring Classic race. That's going to be fun. Yeah, 1980 Nürburgring is the track that we're using there. And we have Circuit of the Americas, round number 7 of this championship, followed by a virtual 24-hour Le Mans, followed by the season finale of the Nürburgring eSports Championship, as Marco Convertini will serve his 10 seconds somewhere in this race. He has just been handed out that penalty by the live stewards that we have on location. Also, of course, 13th of December, 12-hour Nordsch Live. It's going to be a very spectacular one. You look at Becking, having a little bit of a moment here, losing some time. It's not the first time that's happened to him. Only a few Porsche drivers out there. He's currently alone with Niklas Gross, excluding the Porsche in the hypercar, of course, that being Max Grenzner in P6 right now. Obviously, very sad news. They're leaving the World Endurance Championship. Quite a shame, because I really enjoyed them there. Luckily, they're still going to be participating in INSA at the minimum. As for the 12-hour Nordsch Live, you've got some very fun prizes on the line. VIP tickets for the Nürburgring 2026. Not surprised that everyone will want, see, a great opportunity to get down here to the Nordsch Live. This is Andre Hennes, P5 currently. Doing well in this class, looking to get by Victor Mestre Silva, who's currently 2 seconds ahead here. Just looking for the right opportunity here. He's made up some time. The gap is still 1 second though. He'd love to chase that down towards the end of this, but it's not going to be easy. And Luca Becking serving his drive through then. Plenty of penalties being handed out here, both the live stewarding as well as real penalty, the app we're using to detect the corner cuts. And Alexander Hawk also getting himself a 10-second drive-through, 10-second penalty here. No drive-through, luckily, but it just shows how difficult it is here. Most of the accidents, of course, mainly happening at the start in the chaos. Beto Lorente, P13, doing well in this class. Now the P12 driver of Levent Celik is actually a hypercar, despite the gap being quite big. Beto Lorente is the leader in the GT3 class. Well, a little bit sketchy there for the current GT3 class leader. Gotta be careful here. Jeremy Baumert's looking to come around here. To see where he's in that gap. Jeremy Baumert still chasing here. A little bit of smoke there. Gotta be careful. Also the hypercar traffic really getting in the way here. Now Fabian Klein still leading the way here, so far ahead of everyone else right now. Massive respect. Jeremy Baumert close enough to try and make some impact, but not really in contention here. Race leader still very much doing his thing. Guess we'll see it happen eventually. Lots there left in it for the midfield drivers. Obviously some very important points still on the line here. Jeremy Baumert here trying to do well. Now I do still notice that some of these drivers are struggling to get back into the race, so I assume that it might have just been a truthful DNF then. Quite rough if that happens to you, but you know, that is life sometimes. Not much you can do sometimes, but yeah, it's a shame. These drivers obviously were off to quite a good start, and now if you have just one race that is completely off, you're going to be struggling to make up for it, which is unfortunate, but you know, so are the rules sometimes. And of course, it is kind of your own fault for getting to that point to begin with. I'll give you that. Victor Master Silva currently in P3. He's just got quite a gap, and we do now see Alexander Erben also being disqualified. As I told you before, never a good sign. Victor Mestre Silva. Wanting to see whether it's still possible here to recover nicely. See if he can maybe push a little bit further behind, but the gap is already 24 seconds here, which is just so harsh. It's such a big deficit here. That's going to be just so difficult to try and keep up with. Victor Mesa Silva also, of course, now experiencing how traffic is very much playing a factor into this. Victor Mestre Silva doing well. But just not well enough to really get in there and fight with some of these top drivers. Do note also that, for example, GT3 traffic like this, oh, that only about went right. Torben Heinert himself a drive through there for cutting the track that's automatically given out to him. 14 laps have been driven. Noah Boltzhauser here. What can he do in a position like this? Boltzhauser here, so close to getting by on Emmons here. These two are still fighting for a very important kind of mid-race position swap. So I am going to be curious here to see how this plays out, and if they're willing to go very hard side by side, or if both players are going to try and take it a little bit more careful. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the tactic right now, because still got a very long way to go in this race. You don't want to be messing things up. This is Noah Boltzhauser now. Don't know what he can do, but to me, it kind of does feel like I need to see just a little bit more out of him right now. Just to make any significant impact here. Guess we'll eventually be seeing him push through, but right now, just not there yet. Victor Mestre Silva, P3 for the time being. Really hasn't changed much. And apparently all of the disqualifications I've just been told have mainly got to do with unsafe rejoins, which is, you know, a more than fair enough reason to disqualify someone if you ask me. They have been warned about this up front and they knew exactly what they were playing for. Shame, of course, because it does mean we're losing some drivers, but at the end of the day, I think a wise decision to, you know, keep your back straight and make sure we have a clean and exciting racing program ahead. You need to make some very big controversial decisions sometimes, but yeah, disqualifications aren't taken lightly here. As Amiklesi also getting himself a 5-second penalty now. Not great, but it can happen. Especially in the heat of the moment, of course. There, ooh, a little bit of a moment there from Nicholas Lim, but he keeps it on the track, luckily. Again, we do see some drivers trying to rejoin the race, but disqualification is a disqualification here. Nicholas Lin still on 5 seconds here in total. There's a big multi-car crash involving some of the GT3s. That's Roberto Laurent, but also Jeremy Baumer. That's going to shake things up spectacularly. Also, one of the hypercars, I think, has gotten some damage off it. Yeah, there's definitely some damage to Jeremy Baumer's front end there. Oh my. I wasn't expecting that to happen here. But that is a uncomfortable, harsh moment here for some of these very, very aggressive and fast GT3 drivers. And of course, this is what multi-class racing is all about, right? This stuff can happen. But you know, Show is leading now. P11 overall, P1 in his class, in the GT3 class, slower class today. Beto Laurenti now a couple seconds behind still. Could obviously be trying to make that comeback. Wouldn't surprise me if he actually does manage to pull it off eventually. Jeremy Baumer here at the end of the Camel Straight. Jeremy Baumert. What can he do now? Trying to create a gap whenever he can, of course. The show is still leading the way, but if only he could just try and get himself involved here. Fabian Klein leading the way right now. 8 seconds. I mean, this man has just been on a flawless race so far, right? 18 laps he's currently done. Will eventually have to come and serve a pit stop, but it's just so spectacular. This man is racing such a high level right now. It just shows how much he's also matured here. Kilian Lutterbach close to Michael Barrow. Actually have both served the pit stop so far. Also traffic involved. Lacey once again getting himself a little bit of a drive-through there. Not great, but stuff like that can happen. Yes, here we do see how incredibly well sub drivers are handling it right now. Right, traffic is getting hot. Fabian Klein leads. Gichot's been put on the lap, of course, which I guess we could all have expected to happen. Julien Gichot, I mean, what can I say about this man? He's just been absolutely on point today. Words, really. And I must say that, in general, it feels like the driving standard has just been incredibly high this season. Of course, it's only my first season here, and it's always a little bit harsh to judge. Because, you know, you've got limited experience in your own kind of class in the leagues, of course, that you usually host. But I must say, you know, if the level's always like this, you can be pretty satisfied. Because, man, it's some good racing. This is Ingo Werner, currently aboard with P21. And from the Koblenz region here, Ingo Werner just seeing some of these faster cars go by, but he's kind of in bliss position where he's stuck between, you know, absolute nobody right now. It's just no man's land that he's currently in, which is great for him, of course. It's always going to help in a position like this to get some good lap times in, now that you're driving alone. Ingo Werner currently P21 overall. I think it's just going to be one of those drives where, you know, you're dealing with the uncomfortable truth of not being able to perform to the absolute highest level. Doing well, sure enough. I do think it is fair to say that, you know, the driving standards that he's currently having are great, but we do want to see just a little bit more out of him, I think. Whenever he has the opportunity, David Gosman's driving a little bit slowly there. It's had a pretty rough race so far here. Now also do note that David Gosman, of course, a little bit newer to the sim racing scene in general. Still finding someone though, just not on the same lap as him. Of course, they'll be taking it a little bit easier whenever they can. Don't want to be making fatal mistakes here. Especially when the whole world is watching. Get another 5-second drive through from Cedric Abiati. And I think, honestly, a great thing in this race is the fact that we've got stricter stewards than we used to have. That in combination with drivers that are a little bit more cautious, and the fact that we have a bigger track, I think just makes for great opportunities to get some high-level racing in here. And I'm curious to see how it will go when you have different kind of cars on the track, right? For example, one that I'm thinking about right now is how would it go in the Formula 1 season? See the same spectacular kind of racing that we have just before this in multi-class, or is it gonna be not comparable at all? Currently, safe to say it's going to be a matter of time till these top drivers are able to just kind of battle it out again. Nicholas Klein's been closing that gap onto Fabian Klein. Nicholas Lynn, of course, I mean. Kilian Lutterbach, P5, still 3.6 seconds. Michael Bauer right behind that. Yoram Albasi, P9, has got a big gap to fill. Difficult also for Levent Celik, of course, with now him stunning into the pit. And the field is just getting smaller and smaller, of course, which is only logical. Still pretty rough. This is Jan Emmons we're on board with here. 14. Good race from him. Currently, of course, Jeremy Baumert still ahead. Cedric Abiati got that good performance in. He's currently ahead. Julien Sechot, one of the bigger hitters. Safe to say that this is kind of normal for him. Be at the front like that. Jan Emmons going to serve a little bit of a pit stop here. Down out from the canal. It's actually hit the on the background. We weren't able to see it. Bauer P11, more penalties are coming out also. Baumert here. Now, looking at how it's currently looking as Armin Klesi serves his drive-through that he got a couple minutes ago. If things stay like this, it's going to be really good for him in the overall championship, of course. Baumert currently leading with 90 points in the GT3 championship here. Raffio is behind him, but he's nowhere to be seen this time around. Lorente is a couple positions behind him, so he would be improving his position by winning out the race if he stays like this. Of course, he's still to come in this race compared to some of the other drivers. But then you also have, of course, Roberto Lorente losing a couple extra points. He's going to be able to overtake Thibaut Raffio as things stand, and that would also change up the GT3 standings a little bit there. As for hypercars, I mean, it is just a Klein very much ahead. Röhrig is nowhere to be found this time around, the current championship leader. Thibaut Ruffier obviously disqualified from this race. Röhrig, yeah, just missing, I think, in total. Lutterbank P3. He'll be happy with P4, although not by much, but he would increase his position up to the current P4 in the championship. That is Michael Bauer in the Cadillac as always. Fabian Klein, the current race leader, passing by traffic, should be able to overtake the Lexus here, and he should be unleashed into clean air for a while also, where Nicholas Lynn is 4 seconds behind. Of course, yet to overtake the Lexus. But some good points would be scored here for the current top drivers. It's also to see really just how well this championship has actually developed in terms of rivalry, in terms of how competitive the races have been. I think it's fair to say. Nicholas Lynn, 3 seconds. Fabian Klein, and oh, there's contact being made. Oh no, that's about the worst thing that could have happened there. Oh, that's gonna cost him such a lead. Oh no, that's rough. I mean, now he's 10 seconds behind. That would have been it. Reno Cheville also getting disqualified, also for an unsafe rejoin this time around. Rough, and you can see just how many drivers have been eliminated from this race so far. In both classes, that is. And it's good, you know, they have really decided that they want to hammer down on the driver standards here. People pay quite a bit of money to participate in these leagues, are playing for quite high prizes, so I think it's only logical that we do this here. David Gosman making his way up there, and he is maybe not the fastest driver out there right now, but in a decent position overall, especially now that some of these faster drivers have been eliminated. So that helps, most definitely. This is Norbert De Wild, P15. Torben Heiner right now, P22. Doing good, doing what is to be expected of him. Would love to get us a little bit further up there. Also a driver that is taking out one of the Ferraris. There's not a lot of them out there today, and it's obviously mainly the BMWs once again prevailing, being a German manufacturer. Fabian Klein's come into the pits, so Nicholas Lynn will take the lead, albeit temporarily. 20 minutes on the clock here to go. I'm sure also that incident involving Nicholas Lynn will be investigated by the stewards. Contact between them kind of rough. Jeremy Baumert here doing well and looking for some good points here in here. And I think that gap is just too much to break down as long as he can keep this up. There we see Anthony Mottas also getting himself another drive-through here. 20 minutes left to go. Reto Laurenti here, P14. Robin Heinert, P22 overall right now, trying to see if he could get closer to Nicholas Gross if he wants to. Keenan Lutterback currently P4. Don't know what he can do here, but I guess we'll see if this is still salvageable. I mean, if he gets up to P3 here above Victor Mestre, he'd be doing a good job for the championship. And obviously the rest just too far gone to catch. Kilian Lutterback, P4 right now. Ooh, there's contact. Ooh, that is rough. Victor Mestre Silva gets spun around. At least the two make contact. Yeah, that's gonna be tough now because he has 2 seconds that he needs to try and catch up. Of course, there's no traffic between them right now, so that helps, but still. Niklas Lind 7 seconds away from Fabian Klein. Now that both drivers have done their pit stops, you'll see that Fabian Klein has taken back the race leading position, as was to be expected. The gaps are pretty big at the moment. Victor Mestre Silva. Don't know what he can do in a position like this, but so overall seems okay. There's a little bit of a lockup then, Victor Mestre Silva. They managed to make it by here. That's great. It's going to help out quite nicely. Now just look at how aggressive they can go and cutting through traffic here. Just pushing those GT3s out as much as they can. Mestre Silva currently P4. Doing well. Andre Hennes P5. Michael Bauer P6 still. Gap between those two only 1 second, as GT3 traffic is very much also going to get into the way of things. And ooh, that's a little bit of a lock up there, but Victor Mestre Silva not enjoying this. Traffic obviously got into the way for him a little bit heavier than they did for the driver in front of him. Got about 8 DNFs right now. Disqualifications, those are. Convertini's into the pits. He's going to drop back a couple positions. Baumert's still leading, so show is on 7 seconds. Michael Bauer's gotten a 10-second penalty from race direction. That would put him behind Max Grenzner. Has gone fairly unnoticed so far. There we also see the disconnect for Michael Bauer. Has he given up or what's happened then? That is the back going off. Costing him a little bit more time. Victor Mestre should be very happy with that, because it's just allowed him to kind of get a little bit more of a safe space in. While traffic is also not going to benefit Victor Mestre Silva here. A little Corvette's obviously not going to go into the way if he doesn't need to. This for now will do. Niklas Lin, P2 still 9 seconds behind. The last 15 minutes of the race have started. Robin Heinert, P22. That's a spin for the BMW. I don't know whether that was contact between the drivers or not. I don't believe there was. That's a little bit rougher for Jan Emmons. It's going to cost him some time. It's going to cost him a couple positions. Gap's now 20 seconds even to the driver ahead of him. Hauser, excuse me. Also getting some good points overall, mainly thanks to the DNFs, as Anthony Mottas has served his drive-through, which he got for cutting the track a little bit too much here. Now, to give you an idea of what the lap times are looking like, the fastest lap of the drivers currently driving is a 1:58.997 for Fabian Klein. The gaps are quite big to that. Afterwards here, of course, some disconnects also playing a factor in that. Cedric Abbiati also getting a drive-through for cutting, thanks to Real Penalty being very much aware of the track limits here, which is fun to see. Boltzhauser, P16 for now. Hauser doing a good job keeping things clean. 16 for him right now. Overall, it's still going to get him some good points, considering that 6th currently in the GT3 overall championship. It's mainly been the hypercar drivers that have been disqualified, it feels like, although that's not true. They were just mainly a smaller group to begin with. It's pretty even when it comes to the disconnects and the disqualifications here. But a rough race for some of the heavy hitters here, right? Rino Cheville losing a lot of points. Thibaut Raffieux mainly will be kicking himself. If that never happened, it would have changed around. Their contact made between Leonard van Canal and Montas also getting himself involved. That's obviously not what he wanted to. Fabian Klein still leading the way in the hypercar class, followed by Niklas Lin and Victor Mestre, who's a minute behind, in fact. All drivers have served the mandatory pit stop, although not really mandatory. You need it to get to the end. So by the rules you don't need to, but in reality you do. I think mainly for the people that this is going to be great for, the drivers that are a little bit slower, maybe a little bit less experienced, but have done a good job of keeping things clean. Those are the drivers that benefit the most of this, as they're able to get a little bit higher up in the standings and make some good points back. As the hypercars are overtaking Jeremy Baumert right now. There's a driver right behind him. That's one of the hypercars. Of course, Jeremy is the race leader. Other drivers know this, so they're going to be taking that into consideration. Abbiati P15. Marco Corvertini is still ahead of him. Gap currently a little bit less than 5.5 seconds as we speak right now. Cedric Abbiati keeping things clean. It's good to say also that the driving standards have improved massively now that the first laps are over and we have some disqualifications. The track feels almost empty because this is the longest track that we have on the calendar, of course, with the exception of Le Mans, which is very special in that regard. Obviously, Daytona is a pretty long track, but it's mainly high speed. Probably the easiest track to remember on the calendar here, whereas I think tracks like Interlagos and Fuji and also Circuit of the Americas will pose a little bit more of a challenge. The season finale, of course, at the Nürburgring will be easy because all the drivers there will absolutely love the ring and know exactly what will happen. Keenan Lutterback still P4. The gap is a little bit lower than a second, which will help, of course. Noah Boltzhauser here also trying to do well. And also just enjoy for a second the beautiful landscape together with the roaring engines of especially those hypercars. I think they sound particularly good. Boltzhauser P16 for now. Seven and a half minutes left to go. Time becoming very limited, and it seems like the top two in the hypercars are pretty safe. Same goes for the top two in the GT3 class. And for now, from Canal getting himself a little bit of a penalty there. Rough towards the end of the race, but he's gonna have to serve it. 4 laps left in this race. So drivers have done 32 laps, or at least the leading drivers have done 32 laps so far. If you compare that to the leading GT3, it's currently on 28, so they've passed each other 4 times, which doesn't seem like a lot, and it really isn't on such a track. It makes sense though. On Fuji, of course, they've passed each other way many more times. Now the question is, of course, does Kilian Lutterbank have it in him to go for push onto Victor Mestre Silva to clinch that final podium spot there? Of course, P4 would make you good points, but I bet you'd feel a lot better if you managed to finish onto the podium, and taking a trophy with you is always great. Kilian Lutterbank still P4 to hang around here. Mestre Silva P3. He's definitely got it in him to push well ahead and make the most out of this. Now maybe traffic can start to play a role in this. It looks like the first driver's been able to get by the McLaren rather easily. So okay, Notterback though. Does go a little bit wide into the corner. Doesn't cost him that much time, and he's still very much within a range where he can contest. Try and clinch victory. The difficult part, of course, is actually getting by. Cars are, of course, not the most fresh anymore. They've been going for a while on them. You know, the back coming into the pits. Yeah, he still had to serve that penalty. Of course, I completely forgot about that. That's rough. Victor Mesa Silva goes into P3. Andre Hannes is just, I think, too far gone to try and catch up here. But maybe he can close down the gap on Indian Lutterback here. I'll keep finding that way. Indeed, Andre Hannes will just come out ahead here. Oh, that's rough here, because he's just gone from P3 to P5 in the final couple minutes of the race. Not much else that he could have done about it, though. Baumgart's still leading over to show. I mean, the gap's 2.5 seconds here. Mr. Silva, however, will be taking that happily. Now looking good for a podium. Just great to see. Andre Hennis, P4 right now. To back P5, it's not all too bad. I mean, these drivers are getting massive points, and especially the drivers that normally do well but are currently unable to score points are going to be kicking themselves. Right, Rurik not there. In GT3 class, you see Refio not scoring any points this time around. Rough, but stuff like that can happen. 3 minutes left to go in the race. Jeremy Bauer leads. That's the gap between him and Julien Sechot in the orange BMW behind him. 2.5 minutes. Time that's currently left, so it's going to be one more lap after this. That would then be the end of it, most likely, depending, of course, on where Fabian Klein will be crossing the finish, as he is the current overall race leader, and that's what's looked at to keep things more fair. But time almost up. Fabian Klein has just been sensational this time around. I've got no other words for it. I mean, 34 seconds, sure, Nicholas Lynn. It'd have been unfortunate with an incident that he had with the Corvette, for example, but still. Julien Sechot, I mean, he wants to bring this gap down, but it's going to be just too little, I think, right? The gap's still 2 seconds. I'm inclined P1. It will stay that way, surely. Oh, that's a little bit sketchy. Well, Fabian Klein's going to take this win. A dominant victory. The Nürburgring driver. Ooh, Alexander Hawk's going to 10-second penalty afterwards. Because they look to come in P2. And Armin Clacy also getting a little bit of a time penalty towards the end. Then Nicholas Lind's going to come across the line. P2 overall, and it's very much a great result from him. Going to be sharing some good points. He's driving a Rurik's car, but of course the points don't transfer to him, unfortunately. But P2 it is over time. More penalties handed out now. Victor Mestre Silva a little bit further behind. There we do see, I believe that was the BMW then of Julien Sechot we saw around there. That's also going to be the GT Freeze finishing then. Jeremy Baumer takes the win. Increases his lead as he keeps Julien Sechot behind him. Lorente unfortunately falling back a little bit here. Is there an overtake towards the end? And no, they keep things clean. And I think that's a wise decision. Mestre knows he's got nothing to fight for. Jeremy Baumer to take P1 in his class. P3 it is for Victor Mestre. Right behind will be Julien Sechot, who's happily taking the points there. And it's just a matter of waiting for the other drivers to arrive. Andrew Hennis is a little bit further down. Still P4 is good results. It's good points. Kilian Lutterbach coming in right behind him. And I believe it is one of the GT3s. Is that? No, it's not actually Roberto Lorente yet. There was a driver between them. Roberto Lorente will take P3. And I think that's also a good result from him. I think, you know, maybe he was hoping for a P2, but it just wasn't meant to be today. I think that is the majority of the drivers finished now. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have enjoyed this race as much as I have, because that was absolutely sensational. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, next week, we're going to be back with more action. And, well, it's time to get ready for Circuit of the Americas coming up soon. First race here. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching once again. My name is Ricky. It was a pleasure to host you guys. And as for now, I've only got one thing to say. That is, see you guys next time, hopefully. And I hope that we're going to see the big hitters joining us in again at Circuit of the Americas. But we'll see what that comes around. As for now, have a very pleasant rest of your night. We'll see you guys later.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.